So I've been in this field for over 25 years. I started as an accountant, but I got into business school and that changed my trajectory into consulting. Started from litigation consulting, and that led me into intellectual property because those cases started showing up more on the damages side and things that I was working on as an economist in a litigation consulting firm working on damages. That was around the late 90s, early 2000s. And at that time, the field of intellectual property consulting started showing up with companies looking to at first make more money on their patents. So there were a lot of large companies with large patent portfolios that everybody wanted to be the next IBM, make $1 billion on licensing. That was the lore, or that is the rumor. Nobody knows for sure, but that led some companies to start looking into their patents at the time. At the same time, also that coincided with the dot-com bust. So a lot of startups went under in the early 2000s and a lot of patents started flooding the market. So a lot of that kind of the confluence of all of these market circumstances led to intellectual property strategy becoming more of a field of consulting. So consultancies started showing up. I'm on the valuation side, so I actually started the valuation practice in the consulting firm that I moved to at the beginning. During the years, I've also been doing litigation, so I've kind of doing both and moved around different firms. I'm also very entrepreneurial, which living in Silicon Valley, you kind of have to be. I've been in and out of startups a little bit. At some point, I actually took positions as a co-founder as well as a CFO in 2 or 3 startups in Silicon Valley over the years. But it's always been a segue from consulting. So eventually I always came back to consulting and started a company called Foresight Valuation Group about 13 years ago. And that is where I am today. So that's kind of my journey and how I got into the field of IP. My first encounter with LES was, I think, in the late 90s or in the early 2000s. So I would say I've been a member for about 20 years, give or take. I may have taken a break in between, but came back. Initially, LES used to be a society of members, and you had to have been referred by a member to become a member. One of my colleagues at the time, when I was working in my first IP consulting firm, was a member and he recommended me. I was a member for a couple years, then I took a break because I did some startup work. And when I started this company, I came back to LES and I got involved first with the chapter, the Silicon Valley chapter. Silicon Valley chapter holds monthly events, and I started sponsoring the events and organizing an event once a year, and that is how I got re-engaged with LES. And at the same time, I became chair of the chapter, so I'm doing both at this point. How is LES different? So LES is a nonprofit member society. And that structure is unique. It kind of sits in between the media conference organizations that are all for profit and other membership organizations that are nonprofit. There sits LES. Anybody can become a member and benefit from the organization, which I think is very unique to LES. So I would say this is how LES is different. It's about fostering relationship between the members. It's not so much about come to a conference, pay us a lot of money, do your networking in the conference, then you go home. The networking at LES stays beyond the conference. And the same thing with the other types of organizations that are all focused on CLEs and things like that. LES is not like that. It's providing education as an education program. For me, LES has really been invaluable, both in making people connections, in broadening education, in getting client leads, or in just getting to know interesting people. It's not so much always about the business. It's more about meeting people and expanding the horizon. I really enjoy my activity at LES. I'm a very active volunteer at LES and I do it happily. And I like organizing events. I like webinars or chapter events when I'm very involved with the chapter. So it's given me a lot of satisfaction that's not always measurable in dollars and cents.